I'm frustrated and amused at the same time with the conversation. And I completely own my own emotions. So if somebody's triggered, which you could say I am semi triggered, it is what it is. You own your position. Nobody is forcing you to have any type of emotions. But here's the conversation. I just have to share this. It's funny and telling. There's a lot in here. It's about 2A. I tweeted, after Uvalde, the first thing we go to is attacking 2A and cops. The only reason race wasn't first is because the shooter wasn't white. I'm sure many were disappointed by that, the race baiters out there. No serious discussion about mental health. It's not hard to see why this keeps on happening. So I said, the first thing we go to is attacking 2A. I didn't think that would be a controversial statement. I thought the gun control left would highly or easily admit that they would want to attack 2A. Isn't that something that you would think they would easily admit? Not so much. Abe, I said Ab. Abe Conley, thank you. We got a good. I thought it was a good discussion. No, ad hominems or name calling or anything stupid. Abe replies to me, who is attacking the 2A? And I'm thinking, like, out of everything I said, that's the response. Okay, any legislation on guns is an attack on 2A because the Second Amendment is very simple. It's very clean. It's easy to understand. They made it short on purpose. There's no complications. There's no questions. But of course, we all can interpret because we all have different motives. The whole thing is a well-regulated militia being necessary to the security of a free state. The right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. Just reciting the Second Amendment probably makes your video demonetized or makes you some type of threat. Just reading what it says. But that's it. It's simple to understand. And then Abe doesn't understand, says, why? The Second Amendment doesn't prevent legislation on guns. Well, yes, it does. It does prevent government regulation on guns. Did you read it? It's a short tweet is what the James Madison created here. The right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. What part of that is what part of that is hard to understand, bro? That means infringement means, well, how does the government infringe on your rights? It means the government does legislation to give them the right to take it away from you. Legislation from the government is the definition of infringement. So somebody else jumped in and said, what do you think shall not be infringed means? In a serious question, what do you mean? What do you think? Abe says it means it. So this is the mental gymnastics. This is like I envision Dominique Dawes in her prime. I always envision Dominique Dawes. She was like one of the symbols of attractiveness back in the day. She was obviously a talented gymnast, and I'm happily married. No one's more attractive than my wife, but I will give a shout out to Dominique Dawes. She is still highly attractive. She is for real. I don't know how soon, recent that picture is, but I digress. But this is where the mental gymnastics come in. Like once we get into more of the replies here. Abe says it means it shall not infringe on the right to possess and carry arms. So Abe is talking about it says the right to keep and bear arms. So Abe is like, okay, it gives you the right. So Abe agrees. It gives you the right to keep really means to have. In Abe's mind, it only means to have. We'll get to that in a little bit. In Abe's mind, the keep really only means to have. That means if you don't have one now, you can't get one. I'll tell you why I'm saying that later. To have and to carry the arms. So you can regulate businesses that sell guns. Nobody's arguing that. As far as like they gotta pay taxes and the normal regulations, you can't regulate that business in keeping people from buying the arms though. That's what this is for. So you can regulate a business. A business doesn't pay their. I'm trying to think if they violate some type of city code or something like that, away separate from guns. Then you can do that. Like they don't pay their taxes, they can get shut down. Whatever that is. But as far as selling the guns to the people, you can't come in and say the business has to do this background check or this check or that check. No, it's pretty clear. Shall not be infringed. It's pretty clear. So Abe says it doesn't limit regulation of owning, buying, or manufacturing. So other than that, it's not, you can't infringe. Other than that, you can't infringe on the Second Amendment. Other than the government regulating your ownership, buying and selling, and making it. Other than that, you have a right to keep and bear arms. This is the mental gymnastics. I mean, it's. So you see why I'm frustrated and amused. It's hilarious. Wait, what did? What are you talking about? So that's the argument. Abe says it doesn't. So it means like literally if you have, like when we wrote this, if you have one, you can keep it and you can carry it. But if you don't have one, you can't buy it, or if the government determines. So that hasn't happened, but we kind of went back and forth here, and I gotta find it. It's so hard to kind of it's hard to unpack these threads at times. But going back to it, I was like, okay. And so this person, Abe, thinks, no, this is not an interpretation. I'm reading it verbatim. And let me go back to this one here. Or I'll go through it a little bit more here. So Abe says, I agree. It's crystal clear. The government can't infringe on your right to possess and carry arms. It doesn't limit the government from regulating any other action involving firearms, as some would have you believe. And I'm not even going to get into like James Madison wrote this. Why did James Madison write this? They wrote this right after the Revolutionary War to not only protect citizens from a tyrannical government, their own government potentially, also, see what's happening in Shanghai and Australia, it happened, but also to protect the country from a foreign invader. So let's take a look here. Abe says, so Trump's Russian bot says, I'm not sure how regulation doesn't infringe. This person, I don't know if it's a male or female, is being very nice. I'm not sure how regulation doesn't infringe. My take is regulation is the definition of infringement. How else would the government infringe? But we can agree to disagree, being very nice. So it was a civil discussion. If the government, so it only limits infringement on the right to possess and carry. It doesn't recognize a right to any other action. So I found that sound you hear is James Madison trying to rest peacefully internally, and right now he's rolling over in his grave like, bruh, did I have to literally write every word and possibility out for you to understand this? I tried to make it simple for you, you simpleton, and you still can't understand it. And I think if we were able to talk to James Madison would be like, you don't deserve the right. If you're that much of a simpleton to not understand this, I would bet everything I own James Madison would say you don't deserve the right to have the Second Amendment. I don't know how much more simple it could be. I can't help you anymore. Let me rest in peace. You're bothering me, bruh. But you see how when you can have a civil conversation, even on Twitter, just back and forth, you can unpack where people's deficiencies are. And this is a person who is using, I talked about in another video, you make an emotional analysis of something. He already has an opinion on what the Second Amendment is. I used to look at it differently too, until I looked at it logically. He's looking at it and he has a view on it. And the mental gymnastics, the Dominique Dawes part of it is, I need to contort my mental capacity to fit what I think it should be. It couldn't mean anyone can have a gun without a license and there's no way they could have meant that. Well, of course, if you look at the historical context, that's exactly what they meant. Because we've gotten so soft, we don't understand, and we look at the government as God, many of us, then we wouldn't even look at it like a protection from like a final layer, obviously not something to be celebrated or to be glamorized. It would be a final layer of protection. So I said the Second Amendment's clear. If you want to amend it, then say that. That's fine. That's what Michael Moore did. Michael Moore came out and said, I want to repeal it completely. So if it only limits all those things, well, only limits the sale, manufacturing, all that kind of stuff. I'm like, okay, bro, the conversation's over. I appreciate your conversation. I said your interpretation of the Second Amendment makes no logical sense to me, but thanks for the discussion. That was my like, okay, I appreciate it. I'm out. I did get some information from it. I enjoyed it, and I'm out. And then I try to get out and they keep bringing me back in. Abe says it's not an interpretation. It's simply quoting it verbatim. I own my own emotions and actions. Just breathe in, breathe out. I have a cold, so I can't even breathe all the way in. Of course it's interpretation. That's why we have a judicial branch. So Joe Biden can say, my interpretation is OSHA can force a needle in your shoulder or we can fire you. He interpreted that as constitutional. And so did some justices. They're using this Vivaldi thing as potentially a way to pack the courts. You can interpret anything however you want. Of course it's interpretation. And Abe is like, where's the interpretation? I'm literally quoting it. It's literally what's written. I'm going to have to end with this. People can read the same thing and have different opinions. You don't think the government being able to block the sale, completely block the sale of firearms, the use of firearms, the purchase of firearms, and the production of firearms, you don't think the government being able to do that is an infringement. And I think he's getting triggered because he's seeing how stupid that sounds. Because he was making that case that the government, because he wasn't taking it to the extreme. But if the government can regulate it, then why couldn't they block it? So where's the line? If they can regulate it, where's the line from you can regulate it and then just block the sale of it? It's obviously not in the Second Amendment. The Second Amendment says shall not be infringed. So you made up your own imaginary line that you don't even know where it is. That's why you're triggered as well. You don't think the government being able to block the sale, use, purchase, and production of arms is an infringement on our ability to have and carry weapons. I know. I was being petty. I wanted to show him how stupid his idea was. Not him personally, just good discussion, but how stupid your position is. I've had stupid positions before too, and you know what I do? I say, you know what? I changed my mind because I don't like being stupid. You think that? I think it's obviously an infringement. Then I try to walk away like, we're going to end the conversation now. I tried to end it before. And then Abe comes back again and says, that's an interpretation. Read it without interpretation, exactly as written. Okay, I let that one go. And then Abe said, you can't argue with the words they wrote and the specific limits they set. You want to interpret it as something else, but that's not what it says. So then I asked, so now I'm asking questions. If someone doesn't own a gun already, and you think the government can block the sale, block the use, block the purchase, and block the production of guns, how would that person be able to exercise their Second Amendment right? Obviously, he can't answer that. He says the 2A doesn't entitle you to objects. The hell it doesn't. It's right there. That's the moment hits you and you realize what 2A really means, they wouldn't be able to exercise their right. So it actually entitles you. It doesn't entitle you to just automatically get one because you're born, but it does entitle you to acquire one. I just thought that was a cool interaction. Hopefully that wasn't boring. Let me know what you think. Take care.